Hello, children. Good morning. I hope that you all are well. And as we are doing chapter 9, and in the previous chapter, I had discussed with you that how the NATO military alliances was formed and when the situation became worse. So, in what way the thaw entered in the Cold War relationship between USA and USSR, and we had also seen that how the Berlin blockade was proved unsuccessful when the areas which were banned by Russia to supply all articles to those countries which were under blockade. So USA decided to provide food articles at least through aerial help to the cities or to those places where the people were facing problem. So the thaw was entered in the Cold War because the relationship became more strained and the problem was going very tense, and the situation was also very tense. So to smooth up the relationship for the sake of maintaining international peace and security. So ultimately, the political leaders who came up after the death of Stalin, they were very wise and they were farsighted who decided to maintain their diplomatic relations in a way that no nuclear war should take place and the world can be saved from the nuclear war. So today we have to see that after forming NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization by the Western powers, what was the response of USSR and in what way it influenced the countries, which countries? The Eastern European countries, and it was successful to form the military alliance which was named Warsaw Pact in response to NATO. So let's begin our topic today from the Cuban Missile Crisis 1962. What had happened that Cuba, we will study about Cuba in short, that Cuba new ruler was there, Fidel Castro, and this Fidel Castro was the ruler, and whatever banks, American owned banks or the factories were there in Cuba, all were nationalized by this new ruler, Fidel Castro, which was not liked by American president, and America became annoyed. And as a result, what had happened on the other side, that Cuba was supported by USSR. So basically here the problem started between Washington and Moscow basically. And what had happened when USSR was not happy, especially when it was discussed with Fidel Castro, so they decided to launch a missile in Cuba. And where did they wanted to set up the missile? That place, Cuba, that place was near to the American coast. And this missile crisis missile, who made it? Russia plan to set up. But what had happened when they realized that after setting up this missile near American coast in Cuba, the problem might come up and more, uh, we can say, the relationship will be spoiled. Ultimately, Russia decided not to set up a missile near American coast in Cuba, and they signed one treaty that America and USSR signed one treaty which was known as Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. And according to this treaty, it was decided that whenever they want to test any missile, it will be underground to avoid pollution. And not only this nuclear test ban treaty was set up, but telephone hot link was also set up between America, Moscow and Washington. And why this telephone hot link was set up? So whenever there is any emergency, so they can consult each other. So for the quick consultation in emergencies, that telephone hot link was also set up. So in this way, that whatever a missile wanted to form by USSR in Cuba, it was not set up. Then we come to the Warsaw Pact of May 4th, 1955. So on 4th May 1955, that Warsaw Pact, as I told you that all Western countries form NATO. So in response, right, after collecting so many countries, especially Eastern European countries, they formed one alliance on 4th May 1955, which was known as Warsaw Pact. And in this Warsaw Pact, it said that uh, countries like Romania, Hungary, and uh, Czechoslovakia, Rangoon, many countries, Eastern European countries, they all joined Russia, basically who were under the influence of communism, or those Eastern European countries which were easily influenced by USSR. Because here the main attraction, as I told you, that NATO were the countries, a joint, we can say, army was formed who were in favor of democracy. And Warsaw Pact, in Warsaw Pact, the countries were there who were in support of communism. So here it says that the Western powers join NATO and all Eastern European countries join uh, Warsaw Pact. And Warsaw Pact also, it was a joint, we can say, army who believe in communism, and their headquarter was made Moscow. So Moscow was the headquarter of the uh, Eastern European countries, or we can say the military alliance of Warsaw Pact. Now the third point we have to see here, before third point we will come to this point, that there were Western Germany and Eastern Germany, where Germany was divided into two portions. Basically, the West Germany was under the America, and East Germany was under the USSR. So here that USA formed Federal Republic, German Federal Republic, a kind of a organization, kind of a we can say uh, association was formed who will take care of the Western Germany part people. So here it says that USA formed Germany Federal Republic, right, which was known as Western Germany. And in response, quickly, Russia formed German Democratic Republic. It was also formed, kind of an association was formed, German Democratic Republic, which was known as Eastern Germany. So in this way, not only the Warsaw Pact or NATO was there, but here, that Federal German Federal Republic was formed by USA, and German Democratic Republic was formed by USSR. So West Germany joined NATO and East Germany joined Warsaw Pact. So it was a kind of a indication of war because both the sides, both the power blocks have formed their military alliances and both the military alliances were full length with nuclear weapons. Now, the third point we have to see the first phase of Vietnam War. So, here we have to see about Indochina, this word. Indochina, like we say Indo-Tibet, Indochina, right? Some parts of border India and China. So here it says there were three main places: Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. So in Indochina, there were three main areas: Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And all these three places were under the control of France. And these three places comes under the zone of France. And France did not want to give independence to these countries, but ultimately uh, these people got freedom, independence from France. And later it said that in Vietnam, already there was influence of communism had been started. And here about Ho Chi Minh, he was the Vietnamese Ho Chi Minh. He laid the foundation of Vietnamese Independence League, and due to the formation of this Vietnamese Independence League, Ho Chi Minh wanted to give freedom to the Vietnamese, right? But ultimately, France was not in favor of giving freedom to Vietnamese, but ultimately, due to the interference of USSR, because already there was influence of communist people, they were able to get the victory, and they got independence. But after seeing when these Vietnamese are getting support from USSR, so America also involved in the war and America came forward to support France. So this was also the another reason of spoiling of the relationship between America and USSR. Then later we have to see one more thing about the Geneva Conference. One conference was held in Geneva, and in that it was attended by China, America, England, and France. And there one agreement was made. And in that agreement in Geneva Conference was that election should be held in Vietnam. And due to that, new constitution should be there and the country should be made republic. But what had happened due to the interference of USSR in Vietnam, and elections were never held. And in Geneva Conference also, the some kind of we can say that understanding was made between the countries, especially the Western powers, who believe in the freedom of the countries, and they too wanted to make Vietnam a republic or the independent country. But ultimately, the USSR was in support of communism, and slowly Vietnam also came under the influence of USSR, or in other words, we can say the communism. So, in this way, we can see that how, if you see here in these 3 points, we have seen that how the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was uh, made effort by USSR but was not successful due to the Fidel Castro, and how telephone hotlink was set up. And then we had to discuss about the Warsaw Pact, and this Warsaw Pact was formed with the alliance of Eastern European countries, and how the two alliances or two we can say the associations were formed of Eastern European countries and the Western countries, which were known as West Germany and Eastern Germany, and how in the first phase of Vietnam, we had seen that what kind of war was there, how Vietnamese were fighting with France for getting independence, and ultimately with the support of USSR, Vietnamese were able to get uh, independence, though the France was not in support of uh, independence, complete independence of Vietnamese. And how we had seen that Geneva Conference had been taken place, and in that it was decided that how the Western powers will try to set up a democratic institution after having elections there, but due to some reasons, the elections were never held. So this was the topic, and in my next chapter, I will see that how I will be able to explain you the second phase of the Vietnamese War, and how the Berlin Wall was constructed due to the bad relationship between the USA and USSR, and what were the consequences of constructing the Berlin Wall. That's all for today. Rest we'll see in my next chapter, and you revise the main points.